Hi everyone, and welcome to this video in which I will introduce what are the main differences between Matomo Analytics, formerly named Piwik, and Google Analytics and any other web analytics tool. So actually, if you went within a search engine and try to find the differences between the two, you will probably land on this page, which is totally fine. But if you do so, you may actually also land on other pages, which are more telling you about the main differences in terms of features between Matomo Analytics and Google Analytics. For example, that would be the case here, and that would be the case here, and so on and so forth. So actually, the main thing that I found out is actually within those differences documentation, they will compare feature to feature, and most of the time you will find out that Google Analytics is performing better than Matomo regarding the feature part. And the point that I would like to make in this video is actually you should not compare those solutions feature by feature, because that's not the point at all actually. The main difference between Google Analytics and Matomo and any other vendor actually on the market right now is that Matomo is what we call a free software. Okay, so it makes more sense actually to compare, or at least to assimilate Matomo to WordPress.org, for example, because those are software from the same category. Okay, so those are free software, which means that when you download it, actually you own the software that actually you are downloading. So it's a totally different state of mind. So for example, with Matomo Analytics, when you download it, when you install it, when you set it up on your own server, all the traffic, all the data that you're going to analyze and so on and so forth belong to you. Okay, and that's a totally different state of mind, in which when you install actually web analytics vendor on your website, such as Google Analytics, Hotjar, IT Internet, any other vendor, actually, you do not own the software which is gathering the data. Okay, and that's a totally different state of mind. Is if you want to hack, for example, your web analytics software, you cannot actually. If you want to add some extra feature, if you want to, let's say, access the database, edit some stuff, even selling your data somehow, you will not be able to do so. Whereas in the case of Matomo Analytics, you own the whole thing actually. Okay, that's a free software, so you are free to do whatever you want to do, right? So if we take, for example, a website which has been designed with WordPress, with Joomla, with Drupal, or whatever other free software technology, you own the website, okay? Which means that if tomorrow you want to sell it, there's no problem. Actually, you are the owner of the technology. You can sell your website. I mean, it belongs to you, and there's no point about it, right? With Matomo, that's going to be exactly the same thing. You download it, you process some data with it. This software belongs to you now. You can do whatever you want to do. That's not the same thing with any other proprietary solution, such as Google Analytics and the other that I just mentioned. That's not at all the same thing. So in the situation of Matomo, for example, if you go on GitHub, you will find here below the license. So which is right here, Matomo is released under the GPL v3 license. So here, let's say your condition of use. And if you read those condition of use, you will see that you are the owner now of the technology, which means that you are free to hack it. So which means that you are free to modify it, to do whatever you want with it. You are free. You are free as well to redistribute it. So which means that you are free to make your own upgrade and then to make it available to others. You can also actually sell it. This is something that I have not seen that much so far, but this is totally fine. Actually, you could modify Matomo, make your own brand out of it and sell it actually as a software. It's no big, I mean, it's totally fine. This is what a free software is about. It's the possibility to be free of doing whatever you want. And I think that a good example of it is the marketplace of Piwik or Matomo, which is doing exactly the thing actually. It's when you go on matomo.org and that you look at the marketplace, you will see that you will have exactly the same business model as you have with WordPress, which means that you have the possibility to create your own plugin. You are free to send them on the marketplace of Matomo, exactly like that's the case for WordPress, and to sell them, right? So, for example, here you can either decide to make your plugin as a community plugin, and then people are free to download it. But then you can define a business model based on the plugin that you developed, send them through the marketplace, and then you will get some money out of it. That's exactly the same thing for the teams. Um, this is exactly the same thing that you can do. So right now there is no team which are for sale, but you could do exactly like for WordPress and sell your own theme, right? That's exactly uh, the same business model. Let's say that on WordPress. So that's the thing. Okay, what I could say more? Yes, of course, you can. After that, compare features to feature, right, from Google Analytics to Matomo. So let's say here's the thing, right? Here's, for example, a feature developed by Google Analytics, which is showing you what a given user is doing on your website. Okay, so you have many information and blah blah blah. Okay, so that's one feature. We're gonna call it, let's say, the uh, visitor profile or something like this. And if you look at Matomo, which is here, actually, I'm going to go here on my local installation, you will see that you get almost the same report. Actually, this one I've been here from ages on Matomo Analytics, and I just found it recently on Google Analytics. So actually, in terms of feature, what's happening is that most of all the analytics vendor are somehow inspiring them from each other. So which means that in some cases it will be, let's say, Matomo Analytics, which will inspire himself from Google Analytics and other vendors and try to develop the same features. And in other situations, that's going to be other vendor which will get inspired from Matomo. So on the midterm, on the long term, you will in any cases find all the same features among those two and many other solutions. Okay, so that's, I would say, when you do a comparison between the features, well, at the end, if it's a basic feature, you will find it on all the other platforms because it becomes a standard. When it's a very advanced feature, well, it really depends. Sometimes it's not developed on Matomo. Sometimes it's already developed on Matomo, but people do not know that it exists. Sometimes it has been developed on Matomo, but as a premium plugin. So let's take just one simple example. So if we go within the marketplace and that you go within the plugin part, you will see that you have here, for example, the heat map and session recording. And the heatmap session recording, for example, has not been implemented yet on Google Analytics. So this feature is really, let's say, the art of what Roger is doing, right? So that's the possibility for you to see what people are doing literally on your website, like let's say like the mouse tracking, and it's giving you the possibility to review the video and know exactly what people were doing and what are, let's say, the point that they face, the challenges they face, and then give you some clues about how you can overcome them. So, for example, let's say that this feature is never this very advanced. It has not been developed by Google Analytics, but has been developed by Hotjar. And this is definitely something that you will not see on the first part on Matomo Analytics because that's a premium feature. Okay, so that's let's say the comparison I would like to make between features to features. That I would say Google Analytics, Matomo are almost doing the same thing. It's just the way that you're gonna acquire those features. On the other side, actually, Matomo, what is very important with it is that you can really create your own features. So let's say that there is a feature that you want to develop, which is very specific to your company. It can be only a specific integration with one of your intranet or um, one specific software, and there is no market actually in order to develop it and to make money out of it, then you can create actually your own plugin just developed for your own Matomo Analytics infrastructure, and that's exactly one of the strengths of a free software that you will not have within a proprietary solution. In the case of the proprietary solution, you will need to contact the vendor, ask him to make a specific bespoke development, the price maybe so high that actually you will not have the possibility to acquire it, and then do not have the possibility to develop the software in itself. So just in order to, let's say, continue a little bit on this comparison, I would say as well that Matomo has been developed, started to be developed in 2007. And in comparison, Google Analytics has been developed in 2005 after the acquisition of Earthchain. So here the point I would like to make is we are here comparing two great analytics solutions which are on the market since ages, which are not developed the same way. Google Analytics is relying on the Google engineer in order to develop it, whereas actually Matomo is developed by a community. So if you want to see how, let's say, active is the community, the best thing is to look within GitHub and to see how fast the technology is growing. So that's one thing. Just to let you know that those analytics vendors are very advanced, and that actually me they are already doing the same thing. It's just that the art of Matomo, let's say the main advantage of Matomo over any other analytics vendor is that you own the solution at the moment when you download it. And that's a totally different state of mind, which means that the business model, it's you who decide it, right? So that's also important to notice that you will have some cost with Matomo. The cost is not, let's say, in terms of, let's say, real money that you are paying for a license because there's no license. But I mean, there's a GPL v3 license, but that's totally different. That's the right that you have. In terms of cost, this is really the server maintenance and the server installation that you're gonna have to pay actually. So in some cases, actually, you do not even notice this cost because you already own your own server. So it's just about installing a new database on it. But if you are not used actually to host and use your own server, then it means that you need to acquire one, and that's one of the points that people are not understanding. So when they are going on Matomo, they expect actually to find exactly the same thing as they have with Google Analytics and other vendor. For example, when they come here, they just expect that when they click on Get Matomo, they just create an account and then have the possibility to already start to play with Matomo. That's not the case actually. When you want to use the Matomo free software, what you need to do is to download it and then install it on a server, and it's really look like actually the same installation process that you will do with WordPress installation. Okay, so that's the art of it. And of course, if you want to start already to play with Matomo without using actually all this installation process, without getting through this installation process, what you do most of the time with WordPress.com is that you go on WordPress.com and then you create an account. And then actually WordPress has a business model which is mainly based on extra features that they are selling you within the backend of WordPress.com, such as adding your own domain name and so on and so forth. In the case of Matomo, the business model is totally different. It's based on what we call the cloud, so which means that behind Matomo you have a private entity which is here in order to provide you cloud infrastructure, and this cloud infrastructure you will need to pay a fee in order to process your data. So right now they are offering a 30-day trial, but basically if you go on, I think it's pricing or something. If you go on pricing, yeah, you will get an idea of how much does it cost, 7.5 euro per month in order to process your analytics data, and then to be able to use Matomo Analytics straight away. Okay, so that's the business model at the moment of the private entity called InnoCraft behind Matomo Analytics. So that's the thing. If you really want, let's say, to have a company handling all the analytics infrastructure for you. But I would say in most of the case, what some companies will do when they have their own infrastructure, they will just basically go and get Matomo, download Matomo, install it on their own server, and then in this case, we can consider that they are using it for free because they are just relying it on their own infrastructure. So that's the biggest difference with any other analytics vendor. I have to say that people so far are really more educated that um, yeah, an analytics vendor such as Google Analytics is just 2 click away, and then I get my analytics infrastructure, I install it, it doesn't cost me any money. But you have to take into consideration that when you are doing this, when you are using software such as Google Analytics, which are um, let's say to you, you have the feeling that they are free, whereas they are not free. So the best thing for you is just to look at the terms and conditions, and you will see that actually by reading the terms and conditions of Google Analytics, while you are not so free, or at least you are not free as a free software, which means that here there are some conditions which are, for example, if you are doing something bad with Google Analytics, such as processing personal information, then you will have a huge trouble, because it means that you have done something that actually Google is forbidding, and then you register all the proof within the database of Google that actually you did something wrong. And what you have to know is that as Google Analytics is a proprietary solution, you do not have access to the database of Google Analytics, which means that if you are doing something bad, something wrong, there is no possibility for you to move back from what happened. Whereas in the case of Matomo Analytics, as the database belong to you, okay, as you are the one who set the database up, you are free to access it. So, for example, this is the database of Matomo that I personally installed on my local server. And here is what you will never see with other proprietary software vendors. So this is the database of Matomo. So this is the art. This is what you never see when you use the backend of Matomo, but this is where the data registers. So for example, for any visitor, an ID has been assigned, and then I have the IP address that here I'm masking on purposes for privacy reason. And then you get actually all the different information, such as the number of times that you went on the website, such as the number of let's say action that you performed, such as many other things, such as the referral from which you were. This is the art of the thing, right? The browser I was using, and blah blah blah. And this is the database, which means that if I've done something wrong with my database, like processing personal information, whereas I didn't get the consent from the user, as I have an access to my database, I can straight away delete my mistake, and then guaranteeing actually my end user that actually, yes, I'm respecting the privacy. In the case of Google Analytics and other vendor, as they do not give you an access to this database, and you have no possibility actually to move backward. And that's one of the biggest point I wanted to make here. So yeah. Of course, I could go through all the different features that Google Analytics and Matomo are offering and making like a straight comparison between the two. But as I previously mentioned, there's no point. So um, let's say if you want to own your technology, and that's definitely what all companies, private entities, and stuff will do. Well, basically, you will go to Matomo Analytics. Um, it's just that most of the time with free software, what is happening is that the user experience is a bit different. So, for example, if we just basically take the comparison between the operating systems, such as GNU Linux and Microsoft Windows, you will see that most of the time GNU Linux is used by techie profile, whereas actually Microsoft Windows is mainly used by the mass, I would say. And that's because, yeah, the first steps that you need to do in order to have the software working are a bit technical, and that's why actually a lot of people are not getting through free software that much. But if you look at Richard Stallman, which is let's say the father of the concept of the free software, you will see that he's explaining this within all his speech, and explaining what are at stake and how we should act, and why actually free software are great and what it should be, let's say, the standard. And I strongly believe in openness in the future, and that more and more people will look for transparency, and that's exactly what Matomo is doing. So just one other example of what you can do with Matomo that you cannot do with the other vendor is here you have all the source code of Matomo, which means that you can audit it and look for any I don't know, any footprint showing that where the request going. So, for example, ensuring that actually Matomo software is not, it doesn't have any backdoors sending actually the data to some private companies in order to make money out of it or in order to spy and so on and so forth. So that's definitely something that you could audit directly straight away from the source code of Matomo and check that actually it's not doing that. Whereas actually in any other analytics vendor and any other proprietary software technology, you never know where the data are going. And that's really the main important point. So yeah, I guess I'm done now for this video in order to compare those two vendors. So as previously said, of course, you can go here and compare, let's say, the two things here, right? Let's say feature by feature, but that's not the point, I will say. On the midterm, long term, they will, in any cases, doing exactly the same thing. But the main difference is, which is hardly ever mentioned, is that Matomo is a free software. So you own the stuff. That's your stuff. You can do whatever you want to do with it. Whereas actually with other proprietary solutions, you will never get those rights. Actually, since the beginning, for me, actually Matomo is performing already better than any other solution because that's a free software. So I will say the value for money is of paramount importance between Matomo and the other analytics vendor on the market. Actually, if you look for any other competitor to Matomo Analytics, the only one that we can find is Open Web Analytics, but that it has been a while that actually it has not been um, updated. So I would say that there's no really competition at the moment, and we are on an old software for Matomo Analytics. We are more than 10 years of experience, which means that it has a huge community, and this is the community which is making the power of an analytics system. So I really hope that you like this video and it will help you understand a bit well what are the biggest difference between Matomo and any other analytics vendor. Thanks for watching.